My name is Jacob and welcome to another episode of Raw and Uncut on the Abrasive Conversations platform. You might not know this of me, but I am actually a big hip-hop fan. So a lot of my political consciousness and even my understanding of this complex political world that we find ourselves in actually comes from rap music. And one of the first people's music that I truly enjoyed was that of Tupac Shakur. Now, at school I listened to his music and there was a lot of opposition from my teachers, especially if you listen to the words. At that point there was a lot of swearing and they couldn't understand why I was listening to this music. At that point I couldn't also explain it clearly to them, but there was something that resonated with this music. It's only later that I understood why I was listening to rap music and why I was so much drawn to rap music. I was drawn through this music because I'm associated with the struggle of the people in the music. When they talk about poverty, I could understand it. When I talk about welfare, I could understand it. Now, welfare, poverty is universal black experience that you will find across the world, whether you are in the United States, whether you are on the African continent, and even when you are in Europe, you will have that experience. The fortunate ones make it out, get into middle class, and some of them even progress to become the super rich. But not the majority have that opportunities. So the majority of black people's struggle across the globe is the same. Now the reason why I'm bringing this to you is because you might have been aware of the Kendrick and Drake beef that has been going on and has been that blew up last year, 2024, that led to several diss records from both sides, ending with Kendrick's victory with the track "They Not Like Us." By now you're supposed to know this. If you don't know this and you are older member watching my channel, I would suggest that you look into this beef. FD Signifier as the best breakdown of this beef and what it means. But I've been following this beef and the debates between who is the better and what is representing here. So there's a number of my brothers across the Atlantic that sometimes get their takes wrong. Now, some of them might have industry links, like the Joe Buddens of the world. They have industry links, so they get sometimes paid from record labels, or they have vested interest in the music and the artist that comes from it. So they cannot be as frank as they could be. But that's not the big thing. Sometimes that takes us so wrong. It's so superficial that they don't go deeper into the music. And that is where I would like to add some value. So if you look at this beef between Kendrick and Drake, then it's about blackness. It's not about just ordinary beef. It's about the struggle of black people across the globe. And that's why it has such a big reference and resonance with the majority of black people across the continent, the African continent and other parts of the world. But not just black people. There is people who is of other ethnicities that also find resonance in Kendrick's music. And it's because of this universal black oppressed, marginalized experience, so people find resonance in in the music. So Kendrick had the Superbowl halftime performance, and a lot of people miss the actual meaning of the show. So a lot of people were critiquing the set list, that it could have played more hits, that it could have been more entertaining, so it have a much bigger appeal. But that was not Kendrick's mission. If you clearly look at his mission and you listen to the interview that he had with Ibra and Deska before the halftime performance, then he said a number of things, and there's a number of takeaways from that particular interview that set you up as a supporter of Kendrick's music to understand the halftime performance. And one of the things that he said is that he cannot help but to be black. So by saying this, he's saying is that when I do my music, I cannot help it, but it's going to represent the struggles of black people. And that struggles is universal. The other thing that he put in on the table is to say that rap music is an art form on its own, and it must be treated like that. So if you look at Kendrick's performance, it was a complete resistance against industry standards and industry perspectives. What he was saying is that I'm going to do this hip-hop business of mine, and I'm going to show you how much of an art form it really is. Now, I know that when something is an art form, there's a lot of different takes, there's a lot of debates, there is a lot of misunderstanding, there's a lot of interpretation, and that's exactly what the Super Bowl performance brought. There was so much breakdowns, disagreements, different types of interpretation of Kendrick's halftime performance, and that is the biggest signifier that rap music is an art form. So if rap music is this art form, why isn't it treated the same way as any other art form? And this brings me back to something that we have experienced on the African continent. So from rock art to other forms of African art, it's always been appropriated. It's been appropriated, it's taken from the African continent, it's put in museums, it's owned by universities, and it becomes theirs. We, as the people who produce that art, doesn't have access to that specific art. And the interpretation is, in most of these cases, from a European perspective. They interpret our art. And that's the one thing that I like about hip-hop over the years. There's this fight back against the ownership and the interpretation of what hip-hop is, what hip-hop means. And that's exactly what the Kendrick and Drake beef was about. It's about the interpretation of this art form. On the one hand, you had the ownership of rap music shifting towards the industry, where the industry now have the opportunity to tell the world, this is rap and this is how it's supposed to sound. You have to sound more like Drake. It has to be more appealing to the ears of the people who are not as poor and destitute. It has to appeal to a more richer audience, an audience that wants to drown their sorrows at parties. They want to drink, they want to party. We want rap to be this, and this is exactly what Kendrick said in the first track of the back and forth rap battle between Drake and Kendrick in Euphoria, is that when it comes to this particular form, rap music, you need to go look at yourself, Drake, and you will see that you are actually a black person. If you're a black person, then your music will represent the struggles and the issues within this particular community. And that's not what happened. There's a lot of things that Drake did that showed the opposite of it. He showed that he's not truly tapped into the universal black struggle across the globe, and that he's more focusing on the other side, the appropriation of black art, and then selling that art to the majority, take the ownership only for him. And this is what the battle was about. And I'm glad that in the end it was Kendrick that won this particular battle, because since then rap music is slowly but surely returning to its roots. Its roots meaning this resistance against the oppression of black people. And it started in the Bronx. This resistance is that you put us here, you made us these violent figures, and we're going to speak out against it. So if you look from the 80s up until NWA, then you would see it has been consistent with that message. Black people highlighting their struggle, putting out for the world, and that people see it. And Tupac took that further, DMX took it further. So there was a lot of these black artists who took it further and put the struggle out there. But when the streaming era came, and it was taken over by different groups and make it more pop, it took the true essence of the art form away. And it led to the interpretation to an industry saying, this is how it's supposed to be. And I'm glad that there's currently a debate amongst the gatekeepers in rap music, industry, commentators, rap musicians over the direction of what rap music is. Because the last thing that we want is that it's taken, owned by industries, and we don't have access to the interpretation of it anymore. The same way African art was appropriated, taken to Europe, given the ownership to universities and museums, and give that interpretation to universities and tell us how we are supposed to interpret our art. We don't even have access to it. And that is the heart at the Drake and Kendrick battle. I hope you enjoyed this episode, because this episode on Raw and Uncut is not just about South African politics, international politics, but it's other forms of politics, especially when it comes to aesthetics. Aesthetics is extremely politics. There's cultural politics. And in the coming episodes, I will cover some of those type of politics, because we listen to music and we forget that music form is extremely political in its production, its ownership, and everything that it represents is a level of politics, and we forget it. And it's presented to us in a non-political form, but it's extremely political, especially if it's considered an art form. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching. I appreciate the support, and we'll see each other in the next episode. Thank you.